Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we have tons of news to cover for you. We did a couple shows in the last week. Eddie and I had our weekly show. You can go back and check that one out. And then Jordan Samuels-Thomas joined me to talk about Silfverberg on our own kind of separate show. And, of course, there's more Silfverberg news. So we did an all-star Silfverberg show, and now we're going to do the non-all-star Silfverberg show, and we'll get to all of that news. We'll also talk about the games this week. Call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. Nashville, Columbus, and Dallas, the games that they played. Plenty of team news to get to, and also league news as well. A bunch of it involving the All-Star game too, so we'll cover that as we go through the show. We also talked to Eric Stevens just before the show about Silfverberg and not being in the All-Star game and why Getzlaf's not replacing him and things like that. So we'll kind of dive into that throughout the show too. So let's start off, Eddie. The Ducks came back home, 3-game homestand. They played the Nashville Predators in the first of these 3 games. And this was the good. This was the best game of these 3. The Ducks went back and forth with Nashville. It looked like they were maybe going to blow them out or take them out of commission in the second period in this game. They had rattled off 3 goals, including 2 power play goals, and were up 4-2. Got a little lazy in the third. Nashville came back, but then the Ducks went into overtime and a shootout. And, of course, the captain, Ryan Getzlaf, won it for the Ducks. This game, obviously, was the most exciting game of the week. Eddie, it seemed that we started out strong. We'll get to the other 2 games, which weren't so great. But in this one, this was highly entertaining.
Oh, you had everything in this game. You had tough physical battle. You had both teams making great plays. You saw Gibson with a game saver on Grimaldi's breakaway that it just by inches saved the Ducks from losing. You saw Delorier drop the gloves against our favorite player, Austin Watson. Watson got his ass kicked, so that was really, really fun to see. And then you top it off with someone that leads by example, and the person that we always say to shoot more, just like Jordan Samuel Thomas said. When Getzlaf needs to shoot, well, he shot and won the game in the shootout. And it was just an overall fun game. I was watching it with people that really aren't hockey fans, and they were entertained by it. It was just one of those games where, like, okay, I hope the Ducks can pick up steam and have momentum beating Nashville. And tops it off with Nashville. I think everyone's joking around. I think you said it on DucksNPucks, Mike. Like, here's the goal or something that cost the coach his job.
Yeah, I mean, that was the crazy thing. So after the Ducks beat Nashville, and they fire their coach, and we're like, woo, what's going on here? We made a joke on Twitter about, hey, did Getzlaf get their coach fired? So of course, they're talking that there were issues going on before and leading up to this and yada, yada, yada. But it was just funny, the timing that the Ducks did beat them, and then it happened right after that. So that was pretty hilarious. But this game was exciting all the way around. As you talked about, Eddie, we had Delorier, the league leader in fights, right? He got in a fight in this game. He also got in one in Dallas as well. So that was right off the bat in the beginning of this game. 3 seconds in, right after the face-off. So, of course, all the comments came in about Watson, which I'm going to refrain from saying, but there were a lot of comments.
I think we all know.
Yeah,
I think we all know the comments. So
yeah, I think we all knew he had a little bit of a domestic violence issue, should we say, right? And somehow he's still playing on Nashville. But anyways, this game was exciting. In terms of goals, you saw Sprong was in there too. He got one on the power play. Henrique had a couple goals. Fowler had a laser of a goal in this one. And it was exciting, like you talked about too, in the overtime. Gibson made a huge save to keep the game going. Getzlaf actually almost won the game with a really nice pass too, but it just didn't connect in that extra session. I did think the Ducks could have won this in regulation, though. They did have a 5-on-3 power play also in that second period. I mean, granted, they got 2 power play goals. I don't want to get greedy, right? That's a lot of power play goals in a game for this team. But this was an exciting game. The Ducks won, of course. Can't stand Nashville. And on a personal note, too, as you know from when we did the weekly show last week, I talked about my mom and how she passed away and when I was in Vegas. But Phil Hewlett was able to arrange a little nice note on the scoreboard there about my mom, basically saying for her to rest in peace, being a Ducks fan from 93. So that was nice. He did that, and then the Ducks pull off this win. So, I mean, it was just crazy because it was my first game back, obviously at Honda Center since that happened. And it just was a feel-good win all the way around. There was everything in it, like you said. Good saves, fights, goals galore in this one. And the best of all, the Ducks pulled it off.
Oh, exactly. I think the Ducks had a little bit of help from someone upstairs on this game, and that was really cool of Phil to do that, and also for the Ducks to display that too. So thank you to Phil and the Ducks too. It's just I'm pretty sure that was just kind of like tear-wrenching, Mike, you to see that, but I know you probably felt some sense of joy and happiness seeing your mom up there and on the board right there and being that Ducks fan since 93. So, just the perfect game, and I'm glad it turned out the way it did, and it's a good game to kind of like, I guess, rest, like have your mom rest. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I remember when my grandma passed away, I needed some time, and, watching a few games after that, and like some games I just felt like, oh, it's like I had my grandma right there watching it with me. So that was just probably my favorite part of the game when seeing that. So there's absolutely amazing. Man, I'm kind of tearing up over here talking about it.
Yeah, I Phil and I have been good friends, for a while now. We have the same birthday, so we always joke, and we're born in January, just like you're born in January. So, go Team Capricorn, if you're a Capricorn out there. But it was nice of him to do that, and he's obviously helped me a lot with doing the podcasting and making this show a lot better. I mean, it's come a long way from what it was 6 years ago. So it was awesome for them to do that. And I felt the same thing, like you said. I felt like she was there, and then they won. And then I was like, okay, let's try to win 2 in a row, right? Because the Ducks haven't won 2 in a row since like the Stone Age. And they had to play Columbus next, and then, of course, Dallas. And we all know they lost both those games. And I was just like, damn it. I'm like, well, hey, at least we got one win, at least on that day. Kind of meant a lot to me. So they pulled that one out, as we talked about. And then they went into this game against Columbus. And I actually thought that, this game was bad in the sense that the Ducks lost. And I think they had some bad luck, though, in this one. I mean, this game, to me, the Ducks actually played a pretty decent game. We saw Getzlaf get on the board right away, so he had that shootout game winner in Nashville. He gets a goal just 3 minutes into this game. Things look good. Columbus answers back, but the Ducks get back on the board in the second period. Kasha gets one early in the second. Things look good. The Ducks are actually playing decent. They're out shooting the Blue Jackets. They actually outshot them in this game 40-27. Another high shot game for the Ducks. But then they had a sequence of bad events happen towards the end of the second period. They had a goal that was scored. They challenged it for offsides. Again, kind of like when I talked about the Manson issue back in the Vegas game, because I was there. We don't get to see all of the replays that you get to see at home. So I was there at the game and posted that video asking people what they saw. Then I went back home and rewatched it again. Anytime there's a controversial play, Eddie and I talk about this. We go back and like to rewatch it, so that way when we're on the show and we talk to you, we have as many of the angles that we can to possibly see it. And in this one, the Ducks challenged for the offsides. It went against them, so of course they got a penalty, and then Columbus scored again, and now we went from the Ducks being up 2-1, down 3-2, and they couldn't recover, and they lost this game. It's kind of frustrating. You felt like they maybe could have won it if it didn't have that bad sequence right there, Eddie, and we'll kind of dive into a little bit more. But what did you see in this game? The Ducks, they outshot Columbus. They won the faceoff battle. They couldn't get anything done on the power play, but I just felt like the end of the second period really did them in this game.
Yeah, you really can't ask for more, especially when the Ducks start shooting more. Maybe some of those shots weren't quality shots, and they were just directly at the goalie, and he had, a vision. He can see them. There was no one blocking his view. But the only thing that matters is they're trying to improve on what they've been struggling with. So them out shooting opponents, especially with that Nashville, that first period, and then this game, and with the almost over 50% or just under 50% in the face-off circle. That's just amazing. The only bad thing, and we talked about this too a lot, is just the power play. They went 0 for 2, and if they would have just scored on one of those man advantages, it would have been different. I know a lot of people were upset about that offside challenge and how it was, still called a goal. But after looking at it and hearing the explanation, I agree with the NHL, and I agree with the officials. They got that call right. Just change roles if that same thing happened, but it was a Columbus Blue Jackets player hitting the puck in and the Ducks scored. You have to look at it at that point of view. You can't just be biased because thinking everyone's against the Ducks. It was the right call, the right play. And unfortunately, it seemed like that kind of like declined the Ducks after that. It's like that call didn't go their way, and they just kind of just gave up already. And so that's frustrating to see when you don't, especially some of these calls have been happening all season. It seems like when you see that, like the Ducks just like throw their shoulders down. They're just kind of like pretty much let that defeat them.
Yeah, and that was an issue in the Dallas game too that we'll get to, and a fan question that we'll talk about in a minute. But that's what I felt about that play too. And at the time, it looked like Lindholm didn't hit the puck, being there in person. And then when I went back and saw the video, there was also the one that the explanation that they put out too, and you can see the other angle where he does actually hit it. So I saw some people that are confused about the rule, what's going on. You have to remember, if the puck is before the blue line, the skater can actually be in the attacking zone. He can touch that puck. It's not offsides. The player's body might physically be offside, but the puck is not offside until it actually crosses the blue line. So some people were saying at that moment, well, the Blue Jacket player touched it, the whistle should have been blown. No, that's not true. He could have skated back out, or he could have touched up and then brought the puck in. Once Lindholm knocked it back into the zone, it wiped that out. That's the way the rule works. It's Rule 83 in the CBA. You can look it up. But, whether you agree with the rule or not, I mean, that's the way it is. So, unfortunately, Lindholm hits it and knocks it back towards the offensive zone. You can see that clearly on one of the video angles, unfortunately. So, it went down. And then, like you said, the bad thing is you get penalized, which is another rule that, again, you could argue that too as well. You challenge and you get penalized. Why? I had mixed feelings about that, but, I mean, that happened and the Ducks gave up a goal. So, I mean, it's tough, but you and I talked about Dallas Eakins and his unwillingness to challenge as much. I actually was glad that he challenged this one because it was a really close play. It just kind of backfired on the Ducks, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, and I was happy that he went and challenged it too. It was one of those close ones. We've seen him in the past. Could have challenged things, but he didn't. But it seems like he's getting more comfortable in the head coaching role, and he doesn't seem to be worrying about, is his job on the line. And I'm hopefully management talked to him saying, okay, we get what's going on. We get the process. Don't think that all because you start losing or you have a terrible first season that we're all just going to give up to you and fire you. So I don't know if that played a factor in it, but it's good to see him going out there and challenging it. I wanted to note one of the goal scorers, Nathan Grube. He's listed as 5'4". He's the shortest player in the NHL right now. I don't even know if NHL history. I think he's 5'7" with skates on, but the NHL app has him at 5'4". It's just kind of crazy. Someone that small, he can still. And yeah, he's not lighting it up. He only has 5 points, in the 9 games he's played. But it's just, for those of you that people tell you you're too small and you're too small to do this, this is one of the examples of, hey, he's 5'4" and he's over there playing in NHL, so that's pretty good to see. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, no, you're right. And, I mean, the scoring ability, the way to crash the net and do that, I mean, that was huge. And that goal, I know some people did look at that too, and they thought about the goalie interference, but if you look after the review of that one, the puck actually goes in before there's contact made with the goalie. So to me, there wasn't any question about goalie interference, so Dallas Eakins was correct to go for the offsides challenge there. And it was a close play. It still was close, even though it went against the Ducks, unfortunately, there. But I think the worst part is then they gave up that goal on the penalty kill after that. So that was, the big turning point in this game. That just sucked. That was the bad part, this game. I thought the Ducks could have won this one. That happened. And then they didn't really have an answer in the third period. Columbus scored late, and then, of course, the Ducks score late. You see Kasha get his second in this game, and actually he had a really good game, but just not enough for the Ducks to get it going. So they ended up losing this game But they also got a lot of good news about players coming back that we'll talk about after the Dallas game, too. So there was some of that. One bad thing that did happen, though, is Silfverberg got hurt in this game, did not return. He also did not play in the Dallas game, which we'll talk about. Basically the ugly game of the week in terms of what happened on the ice. Eddie went with me to the game, and the Ducks in this one didn't do anything as far as scoring goals. They got shut out 3-0 in this one. There was a power play goal by Dallas in the first period, which was fine. And then there was complete bullshit goal in the second period. Sorry, that's what it was. Jones was called for a high sticking play in which one of the Dallas players hit his own player. And then, of course, Dallas scores on that power play to take a 2-0 lead, talking about, things going bad for the Ducks. And they never really recovered from that. They were down 2-0, ended up going down 3-0, and they never rallied in this game. It's unfortunate. It's another bad, situation there. And this game, though, they did not play that well, unfortunately, overall. They just, I don't know. We talked about the Ducks and having energy and playing a 60-minute game. I thought they did pretty well. Obviously, in the Nashville game, going back and forth. Even in the Blue Jacket game, it wasn't the best, but they still overall could have won that game. But this game, especially with honoring Perry and Cogliano, to me, Eddie, the performance on the ice was a little bit of a letdown.
Oh, yeah. It seemed like they had a Disneyland hangover or something. I don't know what the hell they were going on. They didn't come to play. They just seemed to be going through the motions. I think the only player that actually showed up was John Gibson. He made some outstanding saves. The 2 goals that were scored on him were absolute beautiful goals. And I don't think any goaltender, minus Patrick Wall or Dominic Hasek kind of goaltenders, would have blocked those shots. They were just perfectly well-timed, amazing plays. I don't know what was up with the Ducks last night. It was unfortunate. I'm glad I was there with you, and we saw a bunch of other friends too. I joked with Jen Franklin. Thanks for listening too, by the way, about I'd rather go watch The Bachelor than watch the Ducks play the game. It was just really just going through the motions. Like nothing really significant stood out until Delorier dropped the gloves, and then everyone went crazy. And then Manson delivered a huge hit, and the crowd went nuts. But after that, it was just kind of dull. It was country night. It was supposed to be a theme night. It didn't really. I don't know. I didn't really have that like. It didn't seem like they were ready to play. I guess that's the nicest way to put it. It's just one of those games too, and I'm starting to think I'm a bad luck curse because I'm 1-6 this season and going to games, so I might have to not go to games anymore or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I gotta suspend you.
I know.
Like Perry, I'm gonna suspend you.
You're gonna post it on DucksNPucks. Eddie is suspended for 5 games coming up or something. But I mean, I still had a good time. It was fun. Mike got me a birthday present, which was freaking awesome. That just started the whole day better. Like after driving in traffic and coming to that, hanging out with Mike and stuff, and then seeing everyone, I saw a bunch of my teammates. So I think that the experience of being there and the atmosphere and the people I was with kind of made that game better for me. But the performance on the ice it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, like we said, this was the ugly game of the 3. And I think part of the frustration is, I know we're in the rebuild and we talk about this and the expectations aren't as high, but you got to remember all 3 of these teams played the Kings the night before. So, I mean, come on, you got to think that you're going to try to win at least 2 out of 3 of these, or if not 3 out of 3. I mean, they played the night before. Yeah, they're professional athletes. I get it. They play back to back. But that was kind of irritating too, because it's like you can't, I don't know, with the Dallas game, I thought they'd come out a little bit stronger. Obviously, the first period was super emotional. They had 2 video tributes, one for Corey Perry, one for Andrew Cogliano. Posted those all over social media. They're up on our YouTube channel too, youtube.com/DucksNPucks podcast. Of course, it's the stuff that the Ducks made, so that's their videos. We don't get any kind of monetary thing for it, but we posted it out there for you. They, of course, posted out a bunch of their stuff as they usually do. And I think the one that was interesting that they didn't show at the arena, but they posted on social media, Eddie, and you and I talked about this, was Perry when he went and talked to the owners and Getzlaf and some of the players. And it was interesting because he got really teary-eyed and emotional. And I wish they would have shown that at the arena. They showed the regular video, obviously, and then we reposted it. But it was to see that, you could tell from there, whether you like him or not, and we'll talk about a poll question we did too in a minute here, because that's how we get a lot of you involved. And I'll read some of your comments as well. There's some interesting takes on this. But You could tell he didn't want to. He didn't want to be gone. He didn't want to leave the team, Eddie. He was really emotional in that video. If you didn't watch it, the Ducks posted it on their social media. I'd go back and check it out.
Yeah, that's pure passion, pure emotion. It just that I really wish the Ducks had posted that. It just you saw him up there trying to. I'm sure he had a speech prepared, and he couldn't even do his speech.
Nope.
Just all the emotions got to him, and it was kind of choking me up. And I've never been that big of a Perry fan. I'm not going to act like I was. I wasn't. But seeing that, I just really appreciated everything he's done for this organization. The blood, the sweat, the tears. He's just, one of those players that just gave his heart and soul to the organization. Yeah, maybe his point production didn't see it that way come, later on down the road. But he really loved this team, and he loves, the fans in Anaheim and being part of the Ducks organization. So it was just one of those moments where you just stop and think, like, man, this guy is just, he's trying to keep his composure, and he couldn't. He's a human being, and for him, he's just like a little kid again, just talking about and just being part of the game that he loves. And that's one thing I love about these athletes. Like, they're not afraid to hold back their tears, and they're not afraid to be themselves or be human. Like, you see other athletes, they try to act a certain way, or they try to act like they're above everybody else. But I think the hockey players are some of the classiest and decent people. And for some of you listening, like whoever you've met, like I bet you nine times out of 10, the players that you met always were courteous and great to be around. Yeah, you have the occasional bad apples here and there, catching players on bad days, like I have before too. But it's all goes with it. So like I said, I'll say this every show if I have to. I'll say this till the day I die. But I love being part of this game. I love being part of this sport. It just I can't see my life being anything but hockey. So it's just seeing that from Perry. It just kind of like had my heart beating an extra beat for him. And thank you, Perry, for everything you've done for your organization. You best believe I was on my feet clapping for you.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody was. That was the interesting thing, and that's why we posted a poll question on Facebook to see, people's reaction. You and I were talking about on the way home from the game. We're trying to figure out how to word it, and I ended up changing it last second, but I put one on there, do you miss Perry? And it was interesting, the way the voting went, because I've talked to a lot of people, and I get mixed reactions. I get people that do, and then people that don't, and then we'll kind of talk about some of their quotes that some of you put here on Facebook. But in terms of the vote, it's still active right now. You can go on there on Facebook and check it out. But it's 79% said yes, you miss Perry as far as being on the team. Now, of that though, there's a lot of people that miss Perry being on the team and then have a but after it, right? They're like, well, there's this. So we had one. Andrew, he said, I miss his shenanigans and his love for the community. I don't miss his recent play last 3 years. Another person, Franco, said, I miss the 2010-2011 Perry. So there's comments like that coming in. Trying to look here and see what some of the other people said. But a lot of it was more his production down the road. That they looked at, and that was another one. We had Jeff on here said the same thing. He felt like you and I did, got choked up seeing him tear up and everything from the video, but it was about the production, and he wasn't producing anymore, which is kind of interesting. So I wanted to go back and look at these stats. We use Hockey Reference, by the way, for our stats. So Perry's most decent season, I guess, the last one with the Ducks was 2015-2016. He had 34 goals, 28 assists, and he was at 62 points. So people talk about the last 3 years, right? So I don't really count 2018-19 because he was injured. He only played 31 games. But if you look at the two before that, he had 53 points where he had 19 goals and 34 assists. And then in 2017 and 18, he had 49 points, 17 goals and 32 assists. So his point production went down a little bit. Not as much, I think, as some people are stating. I think the big question here, Eddie, and we could talk about this here and weigh in a little bit, is about the goal production. He was, scoring 30, 40 goals pretty much every season since 2010 and 11 when he scored 50. You can't count the 2012 and 13 season. That was a lockout season, but he did have 15 and a half of that season. So he was still in that, most likely in the 30-plus range. And it went down. It seems like a lot of people harp on him because of the goal scoring. I think he still had his point production up there, But what do you think as far as in terms of assists and goals and his overall play? You know, a lot of people harping on the last 3 years. Granted, I don't count the last year he was hurt, but the 2 years after his most productive season, how do you look at it? Do you think it's a point thing? Do you think it's a goal thing? Or why do you think people were so kind of frustrated with him in the last couple seasons?
I think part of it is his contract, the $8.6 million he was making, and I mean, yeah, him scoring those amount of points, it'd be decent for a $5 or maybe a $6 million player, but the amount he was getting paid and not producing where an $8.5 million player should be producing. Some people have to realize too, when they sign these contracts, you're not just signing them for what they're gonna do, but you signing them and giving them that money because what they have done before in the past. You can go and look at LA, for example. They have Quick and they have Doughty at huge contracts. Doughty's still productive, but maybe a little bit overpaid. But the Kings got 2 cups out of it, and they're paying those players the amount they're paying them because of what they've done and accomplished. If the Ducks can go ahead and win 2 more cups in the next 5 years, then fine. Like, go ahead and overpay people because at least we got those cups out of the way, and we have that. I don't know if I want to say. I mean, last night I missed Perry after seeing that video because, like, man, just to see how much he loved the team. But I understand it's business. I still don't agree with the buyout at all, especially coming this season where we didn't know what was going to happen. I don't know if Murray just expected all these young kids to just start scoring at McDavid kind of level, but you can't do that. Just like when you and Jordan were on the podcast, you can't expect these youngsters to come up there and produce at that ridiculous rate and do a 180 turnaround and have this team as a contending cup with a lack of experience. It doesn't work that way. I think we should have held on to Perry this year until we got this new system ready to go. And then if a buyout's still available, buy him out next year. But, I mean, now we're stuck with a $6+ million hit from Perry's contract next season. He's not even going to be, he's still not playing with us. So that's the thing that frustrates me the most. On the flip side of that, I do like the fact that Murray went out and did something that he's not really prone to do, is taking a chance or making kind of a big move. I think a buyout of that caliber and of that player and everything he's done for your organization, that was a really hard move. So I'm happy that Murray went out of his comfort zone and did that, but I still don't think it was the right move to make. And yeah, having Perry on the team this season, it probably wouldn't have done anything different. We probably would still be in the same space we were in, but at least we wouldn't have to be stuck with a contract next year of $6 million, and at least we probably would have got a couple more fights out of it and some Perry antics.
Yeah, I think that's the issue I have too. I understand where people are saying, okay, he's not scoring as many goals the last couple years. He got hurt. Why are we paying a guy to score less than 20 goals, over $8 million? I totally get that part. I understand the frustration there and why people are upset. My thing too, like you, and I don't understand how the buyout works. I don't know why it was only $2-something million this year and then the other couple of years down the road. But for some reason, next year it's over $6 million. The CBA is so complicated. I understand parts of it, and I can relay some of that on here and in articles here and there after reading it a lot. It's got a lot of legalese terms and whatnot. But that's the thing. I'm with you. I don't like the fact that we have to pay him $6.5 million next year, and he's not even on the team. And now you have also Kessler, which we've talked about on several different shows. We don't know what his status is. We know he's not staying out in California anymore. He's back in the Midwest with all his hip stuff. I mean, yeah, the Ducks might get that money back on the LTR next year if he doesn't come back. But, I mean, $6.5 million to pay someone not to play on your team, that's a lot of money for, I know it's one season, but that's a lot. That kind of bothers me. That's why I was with you. If they were going to at least try, to wait till next year to do a buyout, and then it obviously would have been less. I don't know how much, because like I said, the CBA is, cray-cray. It's confusing. But that's the thing that kills me. And with the team that they have now, with all the injuries and everything going on, I don't think having Corey Perry on the team this year would have really stunted a lot of the younger guys' opportunities that much. I really don't, because if you're looking at this team, they're bringing up players left and right, and we've seen that. Half of the Ducks forwards have been goals players in the past for a majority of this season, unfortunately. So that's my take on it. I mean, I understand the production, like you said, paying a guy that kind of money and then he ends up, more like a bottom 6 guy instead of a top 6 guy. I totally get that part. I mean, it makes sense to me. So it's a tough situation, and it was a very emotional night on that game against Dallas. And like I said, it was an emotional night for me on the Nashville game as well. So it's been a crazy week, but
crazy month.
yeah, crazy 2020, right? I mean, we're barely in the new year, and all kinds of things are going on. But we'll get everybody caught up now. We've got a lot of team news and things to talk about in the next segment. The All-Star game we'll hit on too, and then we'll finish up with league news. We got some updates on some of the stories that Eddie and I had talked about on the last show too, if you missed it. So as far as the team goes, they are getting healthier. That is some of the good news. I found out from one of my sources that it looks like Derek Grant is going to return pretty soon. I know the team did say that they were talking about maybe after the All-Star break. I'm hearing that he's pretty good to go. He might be here before the All-Star break. We'll see. But he's definitely back on track, which is good news. Richie is looking to come back probably after the All-Star break. You remember Holzer went down. It looks like he's good as well. So you've got some good news there as far as the Ducks getting players back. They also, the crazy one out of all this, Eddie, is Troy Terry. He was supposed to be out for like 10 weeks. It's only been 3 or 4 weeks, and he's already back on a conditioning loan now in San Diego. So that's some pretty good news.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that. I really hope he's not trying to rush himself because he thinks he has to heal up to still be in the lineup. I really hope that he's 100% healthy, because I would hate to see a player of his potential and caliber go down even longer if he wasn't ready to come back. But if he is, that's pretty awesome of him. I guess it must be good to be young. I just had my birthday recently on the 2nd, and I pulled my groin 3 weeks ago. And I tried to play last week, and I re-pulled it. So I'm still dealing with that. I can't even skate out. I can't even shoot the puck right now. So I'm like, man, back when I was 19, 20, oh, man, I'd fall head first into the boards, have my arm twisted a certain way, and I'm ready to go in the next shift. But yeah, I really hope that he just he goes down there, he gets conditioned, he's 100% healthy, and he can get his confidence down there too. It's a little bit of slower pace, not too much, but a player with his potential, he can be an effective top 6 player. Who knows? You have no idea what these kids can become. So good for him. Derek Grant, I'm so happy to have Grant back. Grant's been kind of one of those players that just seems to just click well with the Ducks and has success with the Ducks. And I really hope he exceeds his career highs this season when he comes back. I'm sorry to say this. I don't like to talk that negatively about players, but I haven't really noticed Nick Ritchie gone. Like, he hasn't played bad this season, but he's not really noticeable. Like, okay, I'm watching the games, and he's not really one of those things where you're watching, like, oh, I wish we had Nick Ritchie back, or Nick Ritchie. Yeah, there's games where, games we talk about, Mike, like, oh, I wish Grant was here. Grant would have done this. He would have done that. But I don't know. I still think, even though he's played a lot better this season, I think it's time for a change of scenery for Ritchie. I think he'll find different success, and what we can get back for him, I don't know. That's just my opinion, just thinking about it. I haven't really noticed anything from Ritchie since he's been gone, and even the games that he's been played before, minus some of the big hits, a couple good goals he scored. I really haven't seen Ritchie as a factor this season at all.
No, I'm with you on that, and a lot of people have talked about that. And if you didn't hear too, on the last show, Jordan and I talked about the trade deadline and what we thought would happen. We even talked about Silfverberg, because there were some people out there saying, oh, well, he's, got the team lead in goals. He's, made the All-Star game, which obviously he's not going to be in. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we were talking about what kind of moves would Murray make. And Jordan from The Athletic was like, I don't think they're going to make a lot of moves. And I don't think they are either. I think some of the names, though, that we've talked about, and we will have, more shows about this as it comes closer, because it's not till February. But I'm with you. I think Nick Ritchie is one of the names you want to watch to see if he gets traded. I mean, definitely for sure he could be one that gets moved. Another one, too, I hate to say it, and some people might be like, what are you talking about? But Sprong is another one that pops on my radar. And the reason why I say that is because when there was times that we thought he would get called up, he didn't. Other players got called up and played this season. The thing that was kind of weird, I don't know if you noticed this in last night's game, Eddie, but I thought he played a pretty good game, and then he was benched and didn't play about 5 minutes of the end of the game last night. So that was kind of weird to me that he was out, and the fact that he's kind of been passed over at times, for other players that are coming up, whether right or wrong or indifferent. That's another one that I look at too, is saying, okay, so if the Ducks are going to trade, I don't think they're going to do anything major. Neither did Jordan, and I think you've said the same. But if we're looking at players and you're saying, okay, the Ducks might be moving some people, I think Nick Ritchie is definitely one you look at. And to me, I don't want him traded. I'm just saying it seems kind of weird that he's been passed over and not. He's been at times benched, especially last night too, because he actually had a decent game against Dallas, one of the few players that was playing well. Eddie. So those are two names that I see that are maybe thrown out there. And I think another one, you and I talked about this too, is Devin Shore, or at least not bringing him back. That was another one that we weren't as impressed with. But those are kind of like, I guess, the three names, unless you have any others you want to add in there that, hey, keep your eye on these players up until the trade deadline. They may get moved or not.
I think someone that's kind of flying under the radar and might have a little bit more value than people think is Delorier. Someone of his style of play, his grittiness, and his willing to drop the gloves for his teammate. I think he would pay dividends for a team when they're making a playoff run, when those hits are up, and you need that aggression, you need that fourth line that can not only just drop the gloves, but he can make plays, he can score, he can get in front of the net, and he can get to all those dirty areas, that sandpaper kind of guy. I think he might have some value to him, and I'm pretty sure there's some teams that might shoot a decent amount to get him just for a playoff run. He's one of those players a lot of Ducks fans didn't know who the hell he was, and he's quickly making a name for himself. Leads the league in fights, and I think right now, and I'll say this, that I think he's the league's best fighter this season. I think he's lost one fight against McDermott when he fought him in the Kings, and that's it. The rest of the fights, even fighting guys twice his size, and he just doesn't give up. And one of my buddies too was mentioning that how he had a smile on his face while he was fighting, and that's just freaking awesome. He loves that. I love the kind of player he is. Yeah, I don't want him to get traded at all. I'm not coming on here saying, oh, trade him. No, definitely not. I'm still pissed off about the Wagner trade. I'll never understand that. That's one of those things. That bothers me. But I think some teams might be asking if they can get Delorier, and if we can get something back for him, if he doesn't have any long-term plans for the future, then that'd be great. And hopefully he has success. He will have success because the way he plays. So I think that's one of the names that might be considered for trade. Sprong and Ritchie, I don't think Sprong's going to come trade deadline. If Sprong's still a member of the Ducks, it's going to be really surprising to me. It doesn't seem like he's part of their plans. I know he has issues playing that two-way game that they want. I think it should just play to your strength. If he's a goal scorer and that's his mentality, then I think it's kind of wrong to try to make a player transition to a different kind of game. I get it, adapting to variable change and having you an all-around player is good, but are you going to sit there and tell Ovechkin to sit there and play better D as a sniper, or hey, you need to pass the puck more? No, hell no. I think a team that gets him should just let him loose and let him play the game that he plays, because he has an amazing shot and he loves to score and he's hungry for it. But come trade deadline, before that, if Sprong's still a member of the Ducks, I'll be really surprised.
Yeah, you make a good point, too, about the two-way game. And I remember people talking about Perry that way, too, saying, well, Perry doesn't play defense that much. He doesn't back check and things like that. And I don't disagree when people say that. But my response to those of you, if you're out there listening and you're saying, well, that's how Perry was. He doesn't play a lot of defense. That's another reason why I should trade him. Okay, well, when did he ever play a lot of defense? Corey Perry was never known for defense. Let's be honest. He was known for going into the net, getting in those dirty areas, antagonizing opposing goalies, and scoring goals. He, being in the right place at the right time and being a net front presence. So, and like you said, Ovechkin too. There's certain guys that's not their game. They're more offensive minded. They're not going to be as well rounded, two-way player. you're not always going to have everybody that plays a forward or defenseman that's going to be able to do both all the time. I mean, that's ideal. You would like to have a team that can play across the rink all the way. Of course you do. You want that, but sometimes you have players that are really good at a certain aspect of a game and maybe not so much at another. That doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad player, but it's like you said, it depends on your scheme and what you want for this team. And it seems like to me, Murray and Aikens, they really want a balanced approach, defense first kind of a thing, and then let the scoring chances come. And that's their philosophy. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just their style of game. So he doesn't seem to fit in that plan. That's why I mentioned him as one of the ones that they could throw out there. Unfortunately, that might get traded. So I would keep your eyes on some of those players. I would even keep your eye on Kasha too. And I know a lot of you got up in arms when he was in all the rumors at the beginning of the season, but that's another one I'd look at. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't trade him at this point right now. I think he's been doing pretty good this season for the Ducks, but it's another one on there that I could see. So, I mean, like we said, we'll have stuff closer to the season, and you can check it out, and we'll talk more in depth about it. But that's what we're seeing right now. One other little move that they did make, too, is that Chase DeLeo was brought up as well. So that's kind of what's going on with the team and the injury news and roster moves and things to watch out. The other big part of this was the news today, which it kind of leads into the league news, too, but we'll talk about it, is Silfverberg. The good news is Silfverberg is going to have a baby towards the end of this month, so he doesn't want to play in the All-Star game, and he has been excused from the All-Star game. I'm glad I recorded that show with Jordan from The Athletic earlier this week, because we talked about him being in the All-Star game and his trade value and all this stuff, and now, of course, he's hurt and he's not in the All-Star game, and he's got his obviously his family to take care of, which of course family is of the utmost importance, in most people's minds, rightfully so. So he's out. And the issue then was, okay, who's going to replace him? So then the league said that they're going to put in Max Pacioretty. Of course, now the next question that most of you out there are saying is, well, why not Ryan Getzlaf? Why is Silfverberg in there getting pulled out and then not getting replaced with a Ducks player? Why is it a Vegas player? So I actually hit up Eric Stevens right when all the news came out, and he and I were talking back and forth about this. And the stuff that he was told, preliminary about this, is a lot of it is based upon the production, how the player does. That's kind of common sense. So Pacioretty, if you look at the last man in voting on the NHL website in the Western Conference, he has the most points. Him and David Perron, they both have 45 points. So there's that aspect of it. There's also the aspect that Fleury pulled out. Vegas didn't have a player. And I know, granted, the Ducks didn't have a player now either, technically. I mean, Silfverberg's still the representative, but he's, obviously because of the personal stuff going on, he's out. So there's that issue going on. And Eric Stevens and I were talking. The other part is Getzlaf would rather have the time off, which a lot of people talk about that too. So there's those couple things going on there as far as the point production. And also one thing I'll mention before I let you chime in, Eddie, is if you look at the website and you look at the last man in candidates for the Western Conference, amongst the forwards, Getzlaf is one of the lowest in terms of points. He has 30 points. The only other one lower than him is Jamie Benn of Dallas. So he's on the lower side of those point totals. Not saying that he shouldn't be in there. I'm just telling you the rating system that's going on as far as by production, as Eric Stevens and I talked about. So that's a big issue there. But I see some people are upset, Eddie. They think that if you pull out a player from your team, that you should be able to put in another player if you're not going to have one at all. What do you think about all this? It's kind of crazy because now we don't have anybody in the All-Star game.
I'm kind of going the opposite. I don't really like the All-Star game, to be honest. I'm not a fan of it. It's not one of those things where I mark on my calendar. And honestly, I can't even tell you when the hell the All-Star game is because that's how much I don't care about it. I think Getzlaf I don't know if he got passed on or whatnot. Pacioretty is more than deserving. He's had a great season so far. Congrats to him regardless. But Getzlaf, he's been part of that. He's been in the league for a while. He's a veteran player. He has more years, or he has less years he's going to play before he retires. And maybe he didn't want to play. Maybe he wanted those days off. And I don't blame him. I think it's wrong for the league to force players to play in the All-Star game and then suspend them if they decline it. I don't agree with that. And I mean, yeah, I get it. Some fans love the All-Star game. They're probably looking all mad at me right now. Whatever. Like, I'm not trying to bash it. I mean, I'll watch it here if it's on and I have nothing to do. I'll just, I'll go in and watch, but I don't really see an issue with them not having any representatives. Some people I read comments saying that the league's against the Ducks and always trying to do this to the Ducks. I don't think it's that point. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know if they approached Getzlaf and asked him. I don't know how the voting's going. Maybe Getzlaf has more votes for the Pacific than Pacioretty, so they're replacing Pacioretty and they're going to add Getzlaf. I have no idea. Regardless of me, I really don't care. I think it's kind of wrong to kind of force. You're kind of okay. Here's the way I see it. You're punishing players because of their performance, them playing so well and making them play extra hockey, while the other players that didn't make the All-Star game get a few days off. That just doesn't really jive well with me. It's 82 game season. These players have families. They have lives. Even in the off season, they barely have time to do anything because they're training all the time just to be ready. This game moves fast, and if you take that extended time off and not train at all, I mean, come training camp, you can lose your spot to someone else, and you're done. That's how fast it happens. It's business. So I'm not really bent out of shape. It would have been cool to see Silfverberg, just kind of get rewarded for all his hard work he's done. I'm pretty sure he was excited for that opportunity too. But family's more important, and I wish him and his second child all the best, and congratulations to him and his significant other. I'm wondering who always name the baby, if it's a boy or Mike or Eddie. I'm just kind of wondering that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Grant will have a say-so in that, Maybe he'll get to say. Maybe he'll bet him something, and then Grant will have to weigh in.
I'm still waiting for that thing. I think we're going to have a full episode on when Grant's best friend has a baby and what's the name going to be. I hope they do like some kind of video or not gender reveal video, but like a name reveal.
Oh,
That's going to be funny that Grant has that honor. I don't have that honor. I need to bet some of my friends that are having kids and stuff like, hey, if I do this, can I name your kid? But I doubt they'll trust me because I'll name him something weird like Brzgalov or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the other part of it, too, don't forget, Silfverberg's out with an injury right now, too. We don't know the extent of how bad it is, but obviously, he went out in the Columbus game. He didn't play in the Dallas game. The Ducks are going to have an upcoming road trip here with a few games before the break. So, maybe he would have been out anyways, even if it wasn't for the timing of his baby to be born. So there's that to factor in it too. I'm not really that upset that he's not in it. He's got to take care of his family and obviously his personal health. As far as Getzlaf not getting in there, like I said, Eric and I talked about it. And like you were talking about, Getzlaf rather have the days off. Being a more senior guy in the league, like you said, you want to rest. I mean, it's not a big deal to be in the All-Star game. And Getzlaf has been having a decent season. I mean, if you do look, like I said, you can go on the website there and you can look at all the players, the last man in. I'm not saying not to vote for him because we did. We were talking about that on the other podcast. Vote for him to try and get him in if you want. Go for it. But if you go by the production and goals, assists, and points and all that kind of stuff, he's towards the bottom of those people that were in that last man in group. So that's why him not getting in there, I'm not really that upset about it. The other part of it, too, is they put out those jerseys for the All-Star game, and I can't stand them. I think they're completely ugly. That's my 2 cents. I think they're terrible. I'm sorry. I like the ones from last year. I know a lot of people didn't like the black and white theme. With the gray kind of mixed in for the San Jose one. I actually liked him. And some of you see me at the game. I wear the black one all the time. I think it looks great and it's like super comfortable. The problem with these jerseys I have is the color scheme is terrible. I understand the note sheet theme and everything in St. Louis. I totally get that. Nothing against that. I get it. But the Ducks coloring on their logo looks weird, and some of the other teams look really weird. If your logo is black, white, silver, gray, anything like that, it looks fine. But some of these colors, I don't know. They're just too light to me, Eddie. I don't know. They just kind of they bug my eye when I look at them. I'm just not really a big fan.
Yeah, to just rewind a little bit about talking about the All-Star rosters too. just because a team that you cheer for, like one of their players pulls out, doesn't mean they automatically have to replace them with another player of that team.
Correct.
It's just like I don't believe in like participation awards or things like that. I think it's just kind of dumb if you do that. I'm not one. I wasn't. I was brought up different. Like my parents always said, be happy, like no matter what. But my mentality is just like it's win or lose. Period. Silfverberg and Getzlaf are probably the only two players that deserve to be in the All-Star game, but adding anyone else into that mix, minus John Gibson, just because you need a representative, I think that's wrong, and it kind of delivers a bad message. And that's just my opinion. Recently, when I had a tournament, we took second place, and yeah, I mean, I didn't want to sit out there for the ceremony and get my silver medal at all. I was just pissed off, but I did it out of respect for the league, sportsmanship. But I didn't put the medal on. I accepted it. As one of the captains on the team, I accepted it, and I went at it through that thing. But I mean, I didn't want to be up there, and I didn't want to accept it. I didn't feel like I deserved it. I don't like participation trophies. So if you guys are getting upset because the Ducks, aren't, or the league's not throwing out one of the other players like Raquel or Lindholm or Manson, I don't think any other player deserves to be an All-Star minus Silfverberg, Getzlaf, or Gibson. That's all I want to say on with that. Now we can talk about the jerseys. I'm not a fan of them either. It seems like someone on Twitter, and I'm sorry, I should have looked up what you said. I retweeted it from my personal account. Said it looks like they just put one of the stickers they give out, the orange stickers, on the jersey. I think they look terrible. I wasn't a fan of last year's All-Star one until I saw you have it, Mike, in person, and I was like, okay, you know what? That jersey looks badass in person, but with these, it's just, they look terrible. It looked bad. We put out what we wanted on Ducks and Pucks, and we got so many of you fans agreeing with us. The Ducks had an opportunity to hit one and nail it out of the ballpark. If they would have threw that old school Mighty Ducks logo, yeah, people are complaining about the little lines, but that's part of the whole music thing in St. Louis, and I think that's pretty cool, those lines. I think I'm one of the only few people that like those lines of the jersey. But that orange logo, it looks terrible. It looks bad, and I'm glad I'm not going to have to spend money on buying one of those jerseys. It saves me money, which really doesn't, because I'll end up buying another jersey, so I'm kind of screwed anyways. But yeah, I think that the Ducks should have at least tried with the third, the Mighty Ducks logo. I think that would have been fitting. It would have been better. I mean, yeah, fans from like other fan bases that, I posted that, and they're writing like, oh, I'm a fan of so-and-so team, but I would have bought that if, they had the Mighty Ducks logo on there. So, I mean, I guess it's all in all good. So a lot of fans, since Ducks seem like they're not going to have any representatives at the All-Star game, at least we don't have to go out and spend that money. So I guess all that money you saved, you guys can shoot it my way and buy me a beer at the game.
Yeah, those rising beer prices, as we talked about. But yeah, I just wasn't really a fan. I didn't think and I just don't think it looks that good. I didn't think most of them looked that great. I think if the color scheme was better, yeah, I know some people talked about too if the logo was more black and orange, not just orange and white in terms of the webbed D, logo. I could see that, and I think that was kind of the issue. Just, I don't know, it just rubs my eyes wrong. I just don't like how it looked. But like you said, you don't need to buy it because no one's going to play in it. So I mean, the jersey's kind of pointless right now. So with that, we'll kind of wrap up the show into the last.
Mike,
yeah.
One more thing. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I forgot to add one more player into that mix of who could have been representing at the All-Star game. I think Delorier should be representing.
Oh, yes.
That guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all the other All-Stars would probably hate him because they'll probably drop the gloves. I mean, I'm afraid to sit in the lower bowl and look at the wrong direction of Delorier, because if he wanted to fight me, I'd be like, you know what? I'll knock myself out just to spare me you beating me up. But yeah, I'm gonna throw it out though. We were joking about that earlier.
Well, yeah, I threw it out there on Twitter too on the account. Everybody was cracking up at that. I'm like, yeah, come on, John Scott 2.0, let's go. Like why not? So yeah, that was another one that we jokingly threw out there, obviously, but. Yeah, we can now proceed to the last part. We'll talk about league news. A little bit more on the All-Star. I know, Eddie, you want to talk about Detroit. Dylan Larkin, he kind of had some comments that kind of go in line with what Eric Stevens said about Getzlaf and not wanting to play in the All-Star game.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Larkin was quoted saying, please don't vote. I like my days off. And yeah, I mean, I think he came back and said that it was the wrong thing. He shouldn't have said that, and he should have came about it differently. Of course, Brian Burke came out saying it's stupid. This is a good kid, and he's a good player, but it's an honor to be part of the All-Star Weekend for the National Hockey League and its sponsors and broadcast partners. Hear that last sentence that I just read. For sponsors, broadcast, and broadcast partners. That just goes to prove my point that the All-Star Game's a joke and you're just doing it for your sponsors and just to make more money for people that have a lot more money anyways. I think he shouldn't have doubled back on his comments. And I think he's saying what a lot of players are feeling. He might be a little frustrated because he's on the Red Wings this season, and we always talk about, thank God I'm not a blank fan. Last year was Ottawa. This year is the Red Wings. I think they have 11 wins, maybe 25 points. They might have 27. I'm not sure, but that's just, everyone's all flipped out about the Ducks, but look around the league, and at least we can say that we're not the Red Wings. I agree with his comments, and I think I'm glad he went and said them. Maybe he could have said it a little bit differently, but I think that's what a lot of other players feel. Their days off are precious. Like I said, 82 games is tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why, trust me, I don't think Getzlaf's really upset that he's not in there. I think he's going to rather take his time off and whatnot and run with it. So, like we said, so the All-Star Game, yeah, if you want to watch it, go for it. I probably won't either, or maybe I will. I don't know. Depends on what I'm doing that day, but it's definitely not going to be my primary goal for that day. Another little thing that did happen, we haven't had this happen in a while, Eddie. So the Ducks did play Nashville this week, and we beat them. The one thing we were talking about, we were happy about. But we had a goal scored by a goalie, Pekka Rinne. Whether or not you like Nashville, I get it, but Pekka Rinne launched one the length of the ice. First time it's happened in a while, Eddie.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I don't care if it was Dubnyk in the Wild, the team I hate dreadly. Seeing a goalie score a goal is just awesome. And he's the Nashville. They are the first NHL franchise to have a goal scored by two different goalies. So that was pretty good to see. The other was Chris Mason. He scored on April 15, 2006 against the Coyotes. Do you guys remember? I know everyone knows Ron Hextall was the first goalie to score a goal by shooting it and also to score a goal in the playoffs. But what people really don't know, and I didn't know until I looked it up, but Billy Smith in 1979 for the Islanders was the first NHL goalie to be credited with the goal. It was due to a technicality because the last player that touched the puck accidentally put it into the empty net, a delayed penalty, and the goalie was the last one to touch it from the opposing team, so he got credit for the goal. We all don't like Nashville, but that, blah blah blah. But that was actually pretty good to see. It's rare you see goalies score a goal. I think the only thing better is if you've seen a goalie fight.
Yes, goalie fights are always a must for sure. That's one of my favorites. Especially going back to Detroit, Colorado, when they were a big rivalry. That was one you and I talked about last night too. So that was just awesome to see that. We haven't seen a goalie score, and that was a long bomb too. I mean, he launched that thing almost 2/3, 3/4 of the ice. I mean, it was awesome. They had a great play. It was almost like dead center. I mean, it was amazing. So, I mean, yeah, we don't like Nashville, but hey, anytime a goalie gets in a fight or scores a goal, then I perk my ears up too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Before I get into some more league news, I want to just talk about OC Animal Care and give them a shout out. I'm going to have this show dedicated to them, but I'm going to do a little twist this time. I want to give my heart and my prayers out to Australia and all the animals, over 500 million that deceased and that just lost their habitat due to pretty much negligence of man. And when I say man, I say humans. It's really heartbreaking for me, and I feel like I'm a tough person, but when it comes to animals, something clicks differently, and I have a soft spot. And I see a lot of people always talking crap about celebrities only donating 500,000 and or a million, but they're sitting on their computers not donating any damn thing. And what bothers me the most is people that say, "Oh, if I had the money, I could have." It reminds me of when people come up to me, and I'm sorry if you listening have done this before. It just kind of bothers me that say to me, like, "If I could have, I would have joined the military." That's what it seems like. I mean, it takes 50 cents to $1. If we all can just donate 50 cents or $1 to Australia, to the people, to their country, or to the animals, that's definitely what I've donated to. And we can all make a difference. It just takes one person to start it, another person to do it. And like I said, if it's, I understand financial difficulties. Trust me, I'm not rich at all. And I get by, paycheck to paycheck at times. But I mean, a dollar helps, with whatever you have. So, just as dedicating the show to OC Animal Care that are part of our partners too. Now, I want to just throw that shout out to Australia, and it's just really sad and sucks all the animals. So on that note, let's enough of the sad stuff. Bieber versus Bennington, the St. Louis, it's on. So we're going to have Justin Bieber taking on Jordan Bennington. Whatever goal he scores is going to be $10,000 to charity. That should be fun. There's no more details. I'm maybe thinking they might have something at the All-Star weekend and have Bieber there and face off against Bennington. I don't know. Maybe it's an off-season thing, but that's still going to be fun to watch. And I'll tune in. Hopefully Chris Pronger's there and he hits Bieber again against the glass. But that'd be funny.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I know we talked about it on the last show, and we didn't know it was going to happen. So the fact that that's going to happen, I'm definitely going to watch that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we're just recording and not videotaping this, because people would make fun of me wearing my Justin Believer shirt. But I'm just playing. But yeah, let's shift over to New York. The Rangers, Ryan Lindgren, he had a hearing for a hit to the head on Avs forward Donskoy. I'm reading about this because he didn't get suspended. He didn't get suspended by the league. However, Nazem Kadri ended up beating the crap out of him after that play and kind of stuck up for his teammate. Lindgren came out and said that he respects guys who protect their teammates and stand up for their teammates, and he says he didn't have a problem with that at all. Just a point that this is an example of ice justice. Yeah, the league determined it was a clean hit. Some fans might think it's questionable, regardless. But I think it was handled the right way. And unfortunately, Donskoy is dealing with concussion protocol right now. But I think Kadri standing up for his teammate, Lindgren answering the bell, and then fighting, I think that's a pure example of ice justice. Everyone can move on. Next game, the Avs and Rangers play. It's not going to be like, oh, he has a target on his back. No. What's done is done. It's over, and we can move on from there. So I think that's a good example of what ice justice is. To follow up a story we talked about too, Lias Anderson, him requesting a trade for disturbing incidents. Him and his agent went out and said it wasn't due to mental health. It's something that happened between him and the Rangers. He's not ready to talk about it. I'm sure it's going to come out soon, so we're all going to wait and see what's going on from there. Logan Couture from the San Jose Sharks have a small fracture on his talus bone. That's the bone between the heel bone and the tibia and fibia, whatever. I didn't take anatomy. He's out for 6 weeks, so Thomas Hertl took his spot in the All-Star game. Now, this is another fun story that I think we both want to talk about, Mike, but in Tampa Bay, so Alex Killorn, and I apologize if I got that name wrong, but apparently he knocked over a fan's beer when the fan was right there by the glass during warm-ups. He went to the bench, came back, and gave the fan $20 to buy another beer. I think that is freaking awesome. He probably got it from the trainers or one of the coaches. I'll pay you back once after. But come on, having a player come over there and give you $20, I wouldn't have spent that $20. I would have just saved that, had him sign it, and just framed it, because that is so awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty hilarious, and we always complain about beer prices at Honda Center or any sporting event. I mean that's just the way it is. But yeah, for him to go do that, that's pretty funny. And I'm with you. I would have had him sign it, and I would have just kept, hey, just initial this bill, and I just keep it. But that is pretty cool to see something like that, where a little accident happens, and then you're like, oh man, then you go back and you get him money to go buy another one. So that was a pretty funny and cool moment.
Yeah, okay, let's shift over to the Hurricanes. We talked about in the last show that Justin Williams was close to re-signing. Well, it's official. He's back on a 1-year deal that has a bunch of incentives about games played, about making the playoffs, each playoff win. So he has a 150K here, 100K there, 250K there. So if you guys want to look that name up and find out those incentives, go ahead. Another fun story coming back to the Toronto Maple Leafs. a parent wanted their kid to have, or I guess the kid wanted the Toronto Maple Leafs cake. So they went to the whichever cake place that does cakes. Unfortunately, they didn't have a template for the Maple Leafs. There was some miscommunication saying that they were going to use a different leaf. They ended up using Toronto Maple Leaf Food Company. I guess it's a Toronto company that does meats and stuff. They posted it on social media, and what happened next was awesome because that meat company went back and responded saying, they wanted to help the kid and put his thumbs up because I guess the parents put thumbs down on the cake because it wasn't official Toronto Maple Leafs cake. So they're going to send the kid and his family to a Maple Leafs game, and they're going to send them meat products. And this is public relations 101 right here. This is a way to get your product and brand out there. I didn't know what this brand was. I'm following them now because seeing this, but I really think they just wanted to help this little boy out of the kindness of their heart. Yeah, of course, you get that social media attention and get some free advertisement as well. But I think they wanted to try to make this kid's birthday better. So, Mike, I think this is really great. And I'm a public relations major, and this is the kind of things that I want to do to help products and brands grow and to turn something negative into something positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you and I have talked about that on this show all the time. I mean, I know we talked about it on the last week's show too, about different people's opinions and things like that. And yeah, I mean, that happened too. We actually talked about this. I had made a shirt a little while back that some people got upset about. And so I ended up donating all the proceeds of that shirt to charity. I was like, that's fine. I was like, I get it. Some people didn't like the way that the shirt was made and whatnot, and I'm not going to rehash the story. But the bottom line is I did what you and I were just talking about, is turning a negative into positive, because people were like, well, you're making this for profit and yada, yada, yada. So I said, okay, well, I won't make it for profit. I'll just give all the money away. And that's what I did. So, that's the way I think that you have to do things, Eddie, is you have to look at those negative type situations and see how you can find the good out of it and turn it back around. And we're human. We make mistakes. I'm not perfect.
Oh, yeah. And just to let you guys know, we appreciate the Patreon supporters. And I don't care if you donate $1. I don't care if you donate $1,000. The sponsors that we have, we don't make any money off of it. Trust me. We use that to giveaways, and I don't keep a track record, but all the giveaways that we do, the shipping, and then all the hours and hard work we put in, I'm not complaining at all. I don't care about it. I do it because I love covering the Ducks, and I love being part of Ducks and Pucks. And I think everyone that writes and is part of it does it for that reason. But I really hope that, still, I know there's some people that think, oh, they're just trying to make money off people. They have Patreon. They just want, no, it's nothing like that at all. We just do it to make the show better, the equipment better. We have better equipment. Mike, you sent me, a really good microphone and helped the sound improve immensely. And all that just comes from, most of it's from both of our pockets, which none of us are going to complain about. And I don't complain about either at all. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it helps make the show better. So when we talk about join Patreon or if we make shirts, and we're planning to make a shirt for the OC Animal Care, like a little donation. You buy a shirt, we're going to donate the proceeds to OC Animal Care, things like that. But yeah, we don't just make it to go and buy a Ferrari or whatever the hell people think that we meant, especially for that Josh Manson shirt. No, it's just, we do it for the passion, and we do it to put money back into the show, to make it that much better, to go ahead and give more giveaways. Mike, last season, I remember you gave away a suite to a few fans, and that was pretty cool. But that's all we do. And even me personally, when I have extra money and I see a good deal on a jersey, or I see something that I know fans would want, I'll pick it up and I'll just, hey, retweet this, or hey, follow this, or tell me your favorite memory of the Ducks, and we'll send it to you. So it's us giving back and us making Ducks and Pucks better, because what's the most important thing is obviously hockey, Anaheim Ducks, but the brand of Ducks and Pucks, and that's all that we care about.
Yeah, and if you want to join that Patreon website, it's patreon.com/DucksNPucks. And on there, we give away game tickets to a couple different games throughout the season each month. I just randomly pick people. We also give away a $200 gift card with the help of Cool Hockey, obviously. So you can go out there and buy whatever jersey you want. Like we hope you buy a Ducks jersey, but if you want to buy another team or another player that you like on another team, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So we have those giveaways, and then random stuff too that comes up. Like Eddie said, we had a suite last season, and I tried to invite as many of the Patreon donators that I could, and it worked out. I got most of them there, so it was good. And I'm going to try and do something towards the end of the season too. I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll think of something. So it's always good to go on there. We also have our Ducks and Pucks shirts that were remade. I just talked to our guy today about those, and those are going to be sent out to you too as well. So if you haven't got them yet, it's been a while, I'm sorry, but now they're finally done and they're going to be sent out. The hats were done a long time ago, but now the shirts are finally getting done, and that you can check out at bit.ly/DNP gear. You can go check that out and get some Ducks and Pucks shirts, sweatshirts, hats, and whatnot. So with that, we'll see how the Ducks do on this road trip, and we'll be back in a week. Let's go Ducks.